I know.
Let him come and then he will open the session, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So in this session, we will have the renowned speakers. Mona is here from Iran. Then will be Mariana from Ukraine. Again, Mona, and then Dr. Stefano, from Spain.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
He must have.
I am Professor Karibaeva from Kazakhstan.
Welcome, madam.
Oh, Professor, you had missed your presentation one day.
Maybe.
No, because your name was in the day one. Your list, you had reported through your colleague that you are not well, and then hence you will not be able to join us and present. Is it right? Okay, Professor Poyamol is here, and I request him to open the session formally now. Please, it is to you now, sir.
Yeah, Doctor, may I start now? Yeah, Dr.
Yeah.
Arjuman, Professor Visudambar Prasad Sati, faculty experts and delegates. A very good morning, afternoon, and evening to all of you. Mountain tourism in most parts of the world, except Europe, as all of us know, has been characterized by unregulated, uncontrolled, and haphazard development in the name of mass tourism. And we all know mountain ecosystems are ecologically and socially sensitive, and tourism is closely tied down to biodiversity, ecosystem services, and livelihoods in these areas. If tourism is not regulated, it triggers a lot of undesirable impacts. We all know that. It leads to questions of resilience and sustainability. And in this context, ecotourism is becoming an important concept. But it is one of the most misunderstood concepts because there are a lot of confusions in the definition of ecotourism. I'm not going into it for want of time, but I think it will be discussed in the forum. Ecotourism is socially and environmentally responsible and economically viable, and it is very desirable in mountain ecosystems if it is properly regulated and controlled. And we all know ecotourism is increasing by 20 to 34% per year globally, or 6 times the growth rate of standard or regular tourism. Tourist volume is small, but ecotourism can generate sufficient revenue, especially from dedicated ecotourism. I'm very happy to note that there are 4 key presentations from experts and 5 presentations from the delegates in this session, covering various phases of ecotourism. As I have to leave now, I'm handing over the session to Professor Visudambar Prasad Sati, Department of Geography and Resource Management, Mizoram University.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Honorable Chair, Professor Dr. G. Poyamoli, the Director of Grassroots Institute, Dr. Hazrat, distinguished speakers, delegates, dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to acknowledge my thanks to the organizers, mainly Professor Hazrat, who gave me this opportunity to be the co-chair of this technical session 9.2. It is also good morning and good afternoon, all of you, because we have afternoon and some have good morning in Europe and America. So I will not take much time because we have many experts here. They will discuss on, they will present and they will discuss on various issues of ecotourism. We have 4 the key presenters, the faculty members, and as well as we have total 5 delegates. They have to present their research. So as we all know that all the 4 faculty members, the experts of ecotourism, the organizers have already given 30 minutes for their presentation. So everyone will take 30 minutes for their presentation, and for delegates it is only 10 minutes. So I request all of you, you all are expert and very intelligent people. you know that how to present and how much time you have to take. So I will not take much time, and I just call upon now. It is an opportunity to me, and I take this opportunity to call upon Miss Mona Kananian. She is a national manager and facilitator, Iranian Swiss Intellectual Property Project and Local Economic Development Experts, Iran. And her topic of presentation is cultural-based rural livelihoods in mountains. Madam, I welcome you and I call upon you. Now, floor is yours.
So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from Iran. It is already the start of autumn here, so a very nice, gentle weather here to say welcome and greeting to everyone. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for handing over me the microphone, and I'm sharing my presentation now to start as soon as possible since we are in a tight time, I would say. So can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So the topic of my presentation is culture-based livelihoods for local communities in mountains. And the journey just starts from this master shot of Lotun village in Alborz mountain, northern Iran, where I visited 22 years ago as a student of high school, wandering around that why these people did not appreciate their environment enough, why they are degrading their environment the way we urban people appreciate and respect the environment. So after getting to the forestry school, as a natural resources engineer, gradually the question shifted to what is the mountain poverty linkages that might are not addressed in such resources and such ecosystems. So what is the poverty at all? So according to World Bank definition, poverty is any kind of deprivation of well-being related to a lack of material income or consumption, low levels of education and health, vulnerability and exposure to risk, and voicelessness and powerlessness. So gradually, by working with these people during my university time, I've learned that the poverty is linked to mountains areas, since hundreds of millions of people in the world rely on mountains for a significant portion of their livelihoods. People living in the mountains regions tend to be more poor than the national average. And gradually, I realized that there are international policies that indicated that mountainous people should be, and mountainous areas should be managed and used considering social and economic objectives, as well as the environment and sustainability. So my question at that time was that, okay, how different groups of societies are dependent on mountain resources. So how we can target them actually. So we have mountain dwellers, those who are living in mountains and are relying heavily on mountains for subsistence as a complement to agricultural and pastoral livelihoods, and commercial users, including small producers, traders, and employees. And consumers of these local products that they can actually put a pressure by their demands on the market. So we have a competition going on over exploitation and using the mountain resources, competition over mountains between different types of forest users and stakeholders like local communities, environment departments, commercial users, competition between mountain ecosystem and different types of land use, such as agriculture and pastoralism, and competition between different approaches of planning the mountain, like pure conservation, production, sustainable tourism, mass tourism, social and economic sectors. So I would say the way to extract the potential of mountain to contribute to alleviate the poverty is not straightforward. So there are some great disadvantages to this. So we have low biological productivity, we have subsistence farming there, handling and managing by local communities and indigenous people. We have political and economic constraints like language, transportation, minor ethnicities. We have like mountain resources are very attractive to authorities and powerful outsiders, and the environmental services provided by mountains are less appreciated when it comes to monetary and prices, and when it comes to evaluating the monetary capital of the mountain resources. And local communities do not have a developed capacity to generate income from mountain resources when they have to compete with other with their competitors to have access to the mountains. But there are also some advantages. Mountain products provide a vital safety net to the local communities. The utilization of mountain products often do not require heavy investments. And the great thing is that local communities already have the know-how and their own traditions related to these mountains that would pass over generation to generation. And mountain developers adopt during the decades survival strategy depending on agricultural and pastoral production, and recently community-based tourism, cultural tourism in order to generate extra values. So what can be done knowing all those pros and cons? One important step to develop any kind of idea or plan for the mountainous resources is to start understanding the complexity of life of local communities and to start planning with them. So to do so, there is a framework called Sustainable Livelihood Framework based on what local communities get from the mountains, like subsistence goods, fuel wood, medicine, wood for building, honey, fruits, etc., goods for sale, all the above, as well as crafts based on these. And recently we have also culture and traditions to be in the market as I would say services provided by local communities, so which could generate income from employment in different sectors and indirect benefits, land for conversion to other use, environmental services, watershed protection, etc. So to plan any kind of sustainable livelihood at the local level, we need to understand this pentagon of available capitals or accessible capitals for local communities, including natural capitals, human capitals, social capitals, physical capitals, and financial capital. So in my case, where I started with Talish nomads, the capitals they have access to were lands for substantive farming, mixed crops, orchards, and pastoralism. Then there is a mix of assets. So we had different households with different access to livelihood assets. So their livelihoods were affected by diversity of assets, amount of assets, and balance between assets. So I would pass this. I'm sure you can all read this pentagon of capital, or more or less you're familiar with, since it is a very old, I would say, framework, but it works very well when you go to the field. And I'm using it as a practitioner. So you need to understand, I mean, after recognizing and identifying the local assets or the mix of the local assets, you should understand the vulnerability context that is going on at that region, like including the shocks, the seasonality that local people are facing with. And then you need to understand the enabling environment that these people are making their decisions within such framework, like the policies of government, of different levels of government, of NGOs and international bodies. the institutions that are playing a role related to local activities, and the process. You need to understand the role of the game and the way that decisions are made, social norms and customs, and different categories of the society like gender, caste, class, and also minorities and such a thing. And then you need to understand that mixing all these, like the capitals mixed with the vulnerability context and the policies or enabling environment, that these are mixed in such a framework, would address to, or would address your local communities, your target local communities, to a certain or to several certain livelihood strategies, since they are combining the assets they can access. They are considering in their accounts the vulnerability context, and they are supported or obstructed by some policies, institutions, and process, which led them to their livelihood outcomes. So, for example, in this case, we had a combination of different livelihood strategies. They had pastoralism, they had their own small orchards and farms, they had their traditional recipes offering to tourists, and they had fuel wood for heating. Besides, they were making agricultural tools for other villages, like the farming villages next to the mountain area, and they were building a wooden machine for wool spinning, and some other wooden machine for making textile, which I'll show you later. So the livelihood outcome might be a poor livelihood based on a fragile or unbalanced set of livelihood assets, unable to sustain to shocks, change, or trends, or it might be an average or a strong livelihood. It depends on your case. There is not a one-fits-all strategy or solution to address the situation. You need to identify the situation at the locality, and you need to design the solution or the strategy to overcome the challenges with the local community. So yeah, here, for example, you could see again the mountain developers activities. So they add to their natural capitals, their know-how and their traditional knowledge to create and to adopt such strategies over and pass it over through generation. They also process wild crops. They have their own local recipes for authentic foods that you can find nowhere else, I would say. So they are offering and they are creating kind of value, which this value is linked to the origin of the products, which bring me to the terminology of geographical indication. What is a GI or a geographical indication? It is an origin-linked product that have a specific or typical quality that is linked to its origin, the terroir. The link can be through natural factors and human factors. So there is always a specific origin and a certain community who are using and adding their know-how, history, background, and traditions to create a specific quality, which is the result of traditions and heritage. So a GI is an indication which identifies a good as originating in a specific geographical area and whose quality, reputation, or characteristics are essentially attributable to that geographical origin. The important point here is that among those competitors that are competing over a mountainous source or a mountainous ecosystem, local communities have the right to be registered and have the rights to register and protect their geographical indication in the World Intellectual Property Organization. So it could be locally protected and it could be internationally protected by law. So that's very important, since we could see large companies could go and they have the authority, they have the financial sources, they could go to local areas and they could obstruct local communities from benefiting from the local products. So it's very important that somehow we secure the benefits of local communities. And that's what geographical innovation as an intellectual property right would offer, to protect the roots at the origin of a product and the know-how, I mean, the method of producing a product. So to protect the specific quality which is defined and approved by an organization of local producers, which is what we did for these special breads and the special cheese at this locality, which is created by local communities. And we are proceeding for this very traditional woolen textile that is produced by Talesh Nomad at northern mountains of Iran. You could see the techniques and the machinery, which is going from generation to passing over from generation to generation. And it is, I mean, the registration is on process for this wooden art crafts as well. So all this geographical indication and the community who owns and possesses these geographical indications have also their own culture, customs, traditions, folklores, stories, and festivals that are very precious when it comes to the promotion of the product. So somehow you cannot promote a geographical indication product without its origin. So it's very important to always indicate on the link between the typicity of the product, the specific characters of the product, and its origin or territory of production. This indication would create benefits for consumers since they can always be assured that this product is coming from a certain origin, and the local producers are benefited from that origin. Besides, and because this is creating, creating value for local communities based on the natural factors and based on their natural capital, it creates, let's say, a will within the organization of local producers to protect and to conserve their environment. So somehow the consumers could get that message that the local environment and the mountainous ecosystem of this origin linked products is also conserved and protected. It's obvious it creates benefits for producers since they can approve kind of premium price among themselves. Besides, it creates lots of tourist attraction to the area. It creates employment, and we had cases of reverse migration, means young generations that are going back to their villages, since it creates kind of sense of identity, self-esteem, and appreciate the traditions and the products of local communities, which is getting more and more important for local communities. And environmentally, as I said a few seconds earlier, it creates lots of interest in local communities to conserve and to protect their landscapes and their biodiversity, since this is now bringing added value to the community. So these are cases of control and certification to reassure consumers and protect consumers that these legitimate products and legitimate producers are protected as well. And the importance of this framework, the geographical indication scheme, is that it always encourages and indicated and put the producer organizations at the heart of the GIS scheme, since The producers organization can unite GI value chain operators and provide a forum and strategic decision platform among the stakeholders of the value chain among themselves and manage specific quality across the value chain of the product by ensuring enforcement of the specification and producers compliance with it. And in case of infringements and usurpation of the name of these products, they can protect the GI legally at the domestic and international markets. Also, they are in charge of promoting and marketing the name of GI and its specific quality and its specific origin. So again, this is explaining that how in a combination of origin and know-how, a specific quality is created, which added value to local communities. And some more advice just to the importance principles to achieve the best result when you are implementing the GI scheme. So always keep in mind that the local communities' viewpoint is important viewpoint, and it is important, not yours, not the decision makers, not as agencies, and always consider the sustainability of their livelihood in the face of shocks and changes. So avoid the temporary feasibility and then consider the complexity of poverty. So it involves many dimensions and sectors. So don't go for single dimensions like economic growth or just try to enhance or improve one sector. It wouldn't work at a locality. You need to have a holistic approach to the idea. So the approach should be at first level, people-centered, builds on strengths of the local communities, understand that this is working with people, so it has a dynamic nature, and it should somehow create linkages between micro, meso, and macro level. So you should go from local communities to the decision makers and policy makers, and you should return. And it should create partnerships among different stakeholders of the value chain. So it should be kind of holistic to take into account the dimensions of sustainable development. So it is not just social approach or environmental. It is different aspects, different dimensions of. So finish with this to choose a GI. It's tasty, believe me. But
I think there is some problem with the Miss Mona, and as I have seen that she has already completed, only the last slide was there. So what to do? We have to wait for her, or we can now continue? She is coming now, yeah. Yeah, so Miss Mona, your presentation is now over, I think.
Please unmute your mic, Mona. Please unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Yes.
hello, I hope that I managed to finish it, but I don't know if it was disconnected.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was finished before time also, 5 minutes before.
Great.
Anyway, but your last slides we could not see because maybe some network problem with you. it happens because this online system always.
Yeah,
Anyway,
sure,
you have-
sure. And in
yeah.
Iran, we always have it. So you can see my.
Yeah, still there is problem in, yeah, still there is problem in your network. So you can now, it's okay, your last, it was your last slide that you could not, but anyway, we have seen it. I think if you, yeah, you have a little bit time, or still your network problem.
Yes,
we
it
have
is.
seen.
It is my last slide. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. And you have very nicely described, elaborated the culture-based rural livelihoods in mountain regions. And also there was a link between mountain poverty and this ecotourism. And also there was some correlations you have mentioned. You have also described about the livelihood capitals and how these capitals can help in enhancing ecotourism and also eradicating poverty in that study area you mentioned. And also you talk about the vulnerability contest because mountains are always vulnerable. And also the policy contests, also institutional supports are always required for the kind of the ecotourism and all aspects of the activities that are related to the livelihood. And one of the important thing that you mentioned that these local products, the handicrafts may help in developing ecotourism in that region. And also what I have seen that you have a new concept of geographical indicators and how the geographical indicators can help in you know that developing ecotourism in the mountain regions. Thank you very much once again. So I don't want to take much time because you have already elaborated about your presentation. So I will go for the next speaker, and she is Miss Mariana Esteban. You're welcome, madam. And this Miss Mariana is a specialist of recreational department, Carpathian National Park, Nature Park, and chairperson NGO Promo Carpathian, Ukraine. And her topic of presentation is ecotourism in mountains. And I welcome you. And now the floor is yours.
Dear participants of Summerfield School, dear lectors, and I'm from Ukraine, representing the Ukrainian Carpathians, and having been working for the national park for the last 7 years and running NGO Promo Carpathians for the last 2 years. Both for National Park and NGO, I work in the direction of ecotourism development, community projects within cooperation with Peace Corps Ukraine, and of course, promotion and investments. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. Hasrat for providing me with an opportunity to share my knowledge and experience about ecotourism in mountains. And during my presentation, I would like to be focused on assets, challenges, and prospects of ecotourism using the example of the Carpathian National Nature Park. Assets and their role for ecotourism. Ecotourism is, first of all, an opportunity. It's an opportunity for nature to be treated nicely. It's an opportunity for local inhabitants as an additional source of income, and it's an opportunity for tourists as an additional possibility to improve their health, get portion of new knowledge, and of course to enjoy nature. Before you think about developing of ecotourism in your area you think about inventory of assets. Of course, each mountain region has its own assets. Georgia speaks floristic and faunistic diversity, natural springs, rapid rivers, magnificent waterfalls, culture of indigenous inhabitants. So each region, of course, must be special. Step 2 is to make each season special. Each season, of course, is perfect for visitors. The most important you should think about is additional activities and entertainments for tourists. For example, entertainments and activities during rainy autumn days, winter blizzards, or muddy spring days. You should think about workshops, conferences, and festivals to attract more tourists to your sites. Spring is the period when mountains awaken from winter nocturnal slumber. It's time of carpet of herbs and flowers covering the ground. And of course, it's time for exciting Easter traditions. Summer is easily the most popular season for visiting. Autumn, when crowds fade away, it's time when the mushroom kingdom spreads across the landscape. It's time for carriage rides, birds watching, sightseeing, evening indoors, harvest, and the traditional wedding season that follows. In the Ukrainian Carpathians, traditionally, autumn was the most popular wedding season. So using traditions, we can think about activities for tourists in autumn. Winter is frozen waterfalls and snowy mountain peaks. In addition to museum and winter outdoor activities, you can soak in hot tubs or traditional banyas, and of course, it's a great possibility to celebrate Christmas twice. First Catholic and then Orthodox Christmas in the mountains. There is no doubt that the best place for ecotourism is the nature protected area, reserve, or the national park. It should come as not surprise to learn that the heart of the Ukrainian Carpathians is the Carpathian National Nature Park. It's the first national park of Ukraine and one of the largest protective areas in Ukraine. Within the park's boundaries, you'll find mountain ecosystems boasting Ukraine's highest peaks. The highest ridge of Ukrainian Carpathians, Chernogora Ridge, is located within national park's boundaries with its 5 highest peaks exceeding 2,000 meters above the sea level. Endowed with a favorable climate, our 1,000 plant and animal and mushroom species thrive, and our 170 species are endangered here. The unique geographical location, mountain relief, scenic landscapes, as well as a variety of natural resources in the mountain areas create great opportunities for ecotourism development. Visitors are provided with several tourism trails, such as nature discovery trails, hiking trails, biking, and horse riding trails. There is no better way than hiking to see and to discover the mountains. The Ukrainian Carpathians have one of the longest network of hiking trails in Europe. The total length of trails within the national park is about 400 kilometers. Here you can see the most visiting, and the most popular, our attraction is Hoverla, the highest peak of the Ukrainian Carpathians, PP1 Mount with its astronomic laboratory on the top, and Khomyak with its stony placers, Dolbush, dedicated to the Ukrainian Robin Hood, Alexa Dolbush, and of course our ecotourism visitor center. In addition to doing inventory of assets and making each season special, you must think carefully about ecotourism affinity groups. For example, before developing the web page discovercarpathians.com, first of all, NGO Promo Carpathians, together with Peace Corps volunteers, worked about a month very carefully on determining all key affinity groups of our area for ecotourism. So we figured it out that our affinity groups are adventurers, conservationists, historians, and romantic group. For the rest of affinity groups mentioned, we feel the lack of infrastructure, entertainments, and activities. Of course, here there are not all affinity groups which are possible to work with as ecotourism groups in mountains. We can find much more. For example, if you work with affinity groups which are not mentioned here in the slide, you can write in your comments. As each issue, ecotourism has its own challenges. Forests in the developing countries are sometimes unprotected in front of people's avarice. The forests in the Ukrainian Carpathians are still owned by a state. The Carpathians, especially basins of Prut, Tesa, and Dniester rivers, are the most fragile flooding areas. Floods and freshets are common for these areas. Frequent and rapids simultaneously covering the area from 10 to 30,000 square kilometers, they cause catastrophic consequences. Rainy summers, winters without snow, and floods in summer caused by climate change make ecotourism really challenging in the mountains. Litter in the mountains make them not attractive for tourists, while the absence of social advertisement about the importance of litter separation causes a big number of low-conscious tourists. Some tourist attractions like Hoverla in Ukraine suffers from huge quantities of visitors, while other tourism attractions and hiking trails are not equipped enough for hiking. Bureaucracy makes decision-making process very slow. And that's why some projects could last not several months, but several years because of bureaucracy. Now I would like to share with you a conservational video which was produced with our partners in the framework of the project Conservation of Primeval Forests. One moment.
Розповів тобі легенду.
This video is in Ukrainian, but it has English subtitles.
Ти можеш її почути, і ти маєш її побачити. А хто побачив і почув, той здатний виконати свою місію. Зберегти життя легенді. Карпати. Вони досі сповнені сили та величі. Вони здатні зцілювати та надихати. Вони безмежні для людського погляду, безцінні для людського серця і беззахисні перед лицем людської жадоби. Здається, що тебе це не стосується. Здається, що це високо і далеко. Здається, що лісу вистачить усім. Але це не так. Карпати. Вони щодня нищаться, спотворюються, знекровлюються та руйнуються. На наших очах розгортається масштабна драма, біль, помилка, а можливо злочин. Чи зможеш залишитись ти осторонь, чи схочеш залишитись байдужим? Вирішуй сам. В той час, коли над зеленим серцем України здіймається сокира нищення, в той час, коли могутнє дерево нашого роду кличе і благає про допомогу, час стати на захист, допомогти вистояти древнім пралісам Карпат перед лицем пращурів, перед лицем нащадків, перед лицем дарованого нам життя. Карпати – це п'ята частина всіх лісів України, і це ахілесова п'ята. Якщо вирубувати заповідні ліси, наслідки будуть непередбачувані. Знищення пралісів – це знищення здоров'я та майбутнього наших дітей. Карпатська земля відчуває вирубки, як мати відчуває синці на тілі своєї дитини. Не залишай кривавих слідів. Голі схили – це хворі легені планети. Чому, заходячи в ліс в пошуках спокою та здоров'я, ми залишаємо за собою хаос, бруд і сміття? Ліс відчуває і добро. Він пам'ятає кожен крок, кожну добру справу. Час захистити ліси, зробити їх національними парками, розширити заповідні території, не чекати, бо завтра буде пізно. Кожне дерево дарує нам кисень, який потрібен сім'ї з 3 людей. Кожен гектар хвойного лісу затримує 40 тонн пилу, захищаючи нас від хвороб. Кожне хвойне дерево затримує до 3 тонн вологи, захищаючи нас від стихії. Ми повинні залишити збережені Карпати дітям, подарувати їм зелені ліси і повноводні ріки, а не кадри унікальної кінохроніки. Ми ще здатні зберегти заповідну красу нашої землі, силою дарованого нам життя та любові. Карпати – місто.
So, conservation of mountain areas and mountain regions can be done by enlarging all protective areas. And this issue, if it's done, it can help to establish a sustainable economy oriented on ecotourism and on economy oriented on ecosystem services. How do we can to encourage conservation of the protected areas? Of course, we first of all should think about activities. What can we do to involve more people to conservation process? We should think carefully about people who will come to our protective area, who will visit, and people who are far away from our protective area who won't come and who will not visit. We should think about activities for them and how they can be involved. For example, activities for people who will be coming and who won't be coming could be outdoor information tables, different conservation activities, events, volunteerism, social advertisement, fundraising, investments, and different fundraising hikes, for example, etc. Now I would like to talk about benefits of ecotourism. Of course, the key and the most important benefit for ecotourism is a community sustainable development. Unlike national parks in the United States, our 25,000 people live in 8 towns and villages within the Carpathian National Nature Park. As the national park always interacts and communicates with local communities. The key benefits of ecotourism for local community is, of course, that ecotourism focuses on pristine natural environments. It builds cultural and environmental awareness of people, encourage positive experience for visitors as well as hosts, and minimizes impacts of tourism on environment. It boosts employment and financial opportunities for local people. It encourages conservation by providing financial benefits in its favor. Ecotourism and sustainable development. It's, of course, two things that go side by side with one another. Tourism requires tools to assist in effective decision making, to come to terms with the competitive economic, social, and environmental demands of sustainable development. Tourism activities generally can create various negative impacts on the surrounding environment. Increased human interference in ecologically fragile areas can cause irreversible change in the existing ecological processes. Otherwise, without any source of income, inhabitants of mountain rural areas will destroy environment by themselves, by illegal logging, poaching, and other types of illegal activities. So I think that ecotourism has more positive than negative impacts on sustainable development. Ecotourism is a key tool for promoting sustainable development in developing countries. Tourism helps in community development by providing the alternative source of livelihood to local community, which is more sustainable. Many view ecotourism as a way to protect the natural environment and create social and economic benefits for local communities. So at the end, I would like to wish each mountain region, each area, each community to be sustainable with help of ecotourism, to find affinity groups, to make your season special, and to develop tourism activities and entertainments for your tourists. Thank you for your attention. You can learn more about ecotourism in the Carpathians on the web page discovercarpathians.com. Here we used our new approaches to ecotourism. So we focused this web page on affinity groups and developed activities for each affinity groups. And on this webpage, you can see the tourism guidebook, Discover Your Carpathians, and you can also use it for traveling to the Ukrainian Carpathians, for your work, for study, and so on. So thank you once more for your attention.
So thank you very much, Miss Mariana, for your very, very insightful, very nice presentation. As you have talked on the ecotourism in mountains, particularly in Carpathian region. You talk about assets, challenges, and prospects of ecotourism in Carpathian regions, and also talk about the conservation and benefits coming out from the ecotourism in this region. And you have described this Carpathian National Park very nicely. You have shown some ecotourism sites also. And then a beautiful picture and a beautiful video you have shown. So thank you very much. And then you have also finished your presentation before the time. So it is all good. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
So now I will call upon the third speaker. The faculty sees Miss Mona, our first speaker. So the third also will be delivered by Miss Mona. So I will not say anything more about it. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, yes, we can see.
Yes.
It is
Okay,
coming
great.
nicely. Yes, yes.
Great. So I would just jump into it since I explained about the methodology that we use basically to get local communities involved in designing and implementing the community-based or culture-based livelihoods and community-based tourism. So the items that I'm going to talk about now as like a 20 minutes of presenting a case that step by step we use that methodology that I already explained in my previous presentation to design a community-based tourism and to bring it to economic values by implementing that methodology by local communities themselves. So I'm going to give a very, let's say, brief explanation about what is community-based tourism at all and its benefits, the obstacles that you face with through the process that you're implementing the CBT, participatory planning, the importance of participatory planning, and then you will go through the case study by this presentation. So again, it's the same village at 6 o'clock in the morning. So everyone already started their work for 2 hours, I would say, since they start at 4 a.m. And the key term here in this presentation is community-based tourism, which is centered on the involvement of the host community in planning from the very beginning, I would say, and maintaining tourism development in order to create a more sustainable industry. So, and it creates and it brings community development, sustainable development of the host community by building active and sustainable communities based on social justice and mutual respect. So now you know this schema, so I would skip it since it explains again that we are using the same methodology here to establish and plan the community-based tourism within that region. So it is CBT is a form of tourism in which local community has substantial control over and generate incomes while preserving nature, landscape, biodiversity, and cultural heritage. Types of tourism that are suitable to community-based tourism are ecotourism, ethnic indigenous tourism, agro-rural tourism, and cultural tourism. So what is the linkages between sustainability and community-based tourism? How community-based tourism ensure us kind of achieving to sustainable development goals at that certain given locality? By empowering local communities, by providing enough opportunities for local communities to get involved in the process from the beginning steps and to express their traditions, to appreciate their identity and traditions, and implement the whole process on their own. So the grassroots are involved. It is a democratic and holistic planning approach, and it has like it regards for socio-cultural and economic conditions, and it's treated as subject, not object. So it's not kind of mass tourism. It is kind of let's say proactive hosting local communities. So it comes somehow to the idea of volunteer tourism, which is the work of an individual or individuals in a destination area during their vacation to accomplish a non-remunerative activity. It brings education and training and brings knowledge to the area. It creates kind of knowledge pool within the area. It helps to raise the public awareness. That's what we did, and we used a lot. Many experts were invited to different villages that we were working in northern and western mountain areas of Iran. They were offering their knowledge and skills to local communities. They were also learning from local communities. They also were co-publishing papers based on traditions and know-how of local communities to raise and appreciate the identity and skills of indigenous people. So there is lots of, it brings lots of environmental and cultural preservation, and it also create initiatives and implement initiatives to spread the income of local communities by offering residents and local foods, local products to these volunteer workers. So it's very, I mean, the heart of this terminology to implement community-based tourism is the stakeholder involvement and participation in each and every step. So it's important to that CBT be locally managed and all voices be heard. So stakeholders are involved in all process from the beginning. Indigenous systems are often, so as a result, indigenous systems are often more sustainable. And this kind of tourism, community-based tourism, is more harmonized with cultural traditions, and it brings community cohesion and cooperation, since each of them separately and individually cannot host all the and cannot address all the needs and necessities to create like a holistic touristic region, and they need to cooperate together to host the incoming tourists. So the collaboration and partnerships of all stakeholders at local level is very important. And I could still remember that when we start the process, we faced lots of lack of coordination in Iran, like other developing countries, since they didn't trust let's say the government bodies, they didn't trust the initiatives, they never tried it before that start from themselves. They always expected some outsiders to come and do something for them and offer some, let's say, initiatives. They didn't trust themselves that they are capable of creating their own local solutions to establish kind of successful tourism experience and a tourism destination, I would say. So we insist, we didn't push the process, and we ask them to give them time to digest the whole idea, to think about their capitals and what is accessible or possible for them based on their local assets and based on their know-how and traditions. And they bring back some more capitals, I would say. They bring back some stories, some folklores. They search for ancient tools that they used to use for agriculture, ancient machines they used to weaving textiles, and we sit together, we identify each of it, we create small stories based on it. So it was like a very, very, I would say, innovation laboratory. So everyone got excited and trying to get involved in that creative process before implementing or managing a community-based tourism site. So the benefits to that very, let's say, communicative and a collaborative approach, where the range of stakeholders that were involved that could support and somehow they're ready to assist the process to move forward. It was a very democratic approach against all the obstacles that we faced with. The social acceptance at the end of the first year was very high, since they own the process. They believe that it is their own, I would say, a community-based tourism site, not a government-based or NGO-based site. They take the ownership and they take the responsibility of managing the site, which we appreciated so much. And the partnership created a pool of resources, I would say all kind of resources, not just financial resources, but the technical resources, knowledge resources, skills resources, and all kind of, and relationships at the area. And then it brings kind of non-tourism activities, as I explained before, like reputation for the local products, geographical indications, and local other, let's say, non-tourism activities. Yes? Oh, okay, sorry. And then there are barriers when you insist on partnerships you should be ready for, which are limited tradition of stakeholders participating in policymaking, and difficult for equal representation, since they didn't get used to it and they need to gradually learn how to have equal voices to each other. There are always pioneers. Yes?
No, it's okay, you continue.
Sorry, there are always pioneers that might dominate the whole communication, so you should take care of that. And then you need to recognize if a healthy conflict is rising, or if a negative situation that should be addressed or should be mediated by a very skillful mediator, which happens at the beginning of the process, since there are different families getting involved in the process. And of course, there are many conflicts that would raise when it comes to have access to the local resources and use the local resources for different, I would say, different activities of this hosting the tourists, which may block the innovation. But it's important to always facilitate let's say, the system to move forward. So I did speak a lot about the benefits. I would skip this. I'm sure you can read it very faster than I explain again. This is the Talish Mountain, northern Iran, in Alborz Mountain, that we established this community-based tourism site there, which creates like I would say more than 100 employment opportunity for local communities, especially women and young generation. And now the organization of this local community are trying to conserve the forests, which is around them. And women are playing a very important role in conducting the community-based tourism activities, since they are involved in hosting the tourists, in preparing residents, in preparing foods, local processing local products, and offering them, presenting them in a very nice, interesting way to to the tourists. So the activities we did was somehow it took a while, like 2 years, that we established the Talish Tourism Development Association, TTDA, which was representative of rural and local communities, different families of Mosul County, which was the target destination for tourism. And it was a very inclusive organization, including trying to include all beneficiaries, community-based service providers. In total, 6 tourism initiative groups with 100 members were involved. And the main purpose of this TTDA, the Talish Tourism Development Association, was and is to sustainable economic development of target communities while preserving environmental, cultural, and social assets. So the achievements so far are developing the capacity of service providers and the staff of Talish Tourism Development Association, improvement of infrastructures and renovation of traditional houses, as you can see in the picture. They also created a small local fund which granted local families, local communities to renovate their ancient houses. And they also invest on marketing of CBT products, opening of the tourism information point at the village, tour preparing and designing tour packages, mountain guiding, homestay, providing homestay services, local exhibitions and festivals. So the achievement is a very, I would say, tangible increase in the number of tourists use information points, and the tangible increase in the income of 30 service providers, family, which were directly involved in this process. So the other activities are establishing local bazaars and festivals, and preservation and trying to rehabilitate the local traditions. Again, local games. Now the local games are collected, local stories based on the I would say the pastoral lifestyle and the Talish nomad lifestyle are collected and published in a small pamphlet, a small storybook, professional marketing of selected products in Tehran, which is the capital of my country, and lobbying at local and national level for improved frame conditions for tourism development. And now they are working on optimizing their services, comparing to, let's say, international standards for, let's say, eco lodges and zero waste hostage, which they get familiar gradually with. And there are also sub-projects going on, projects on promoting a slow food concept in the region, authentic food sector development. They are collecting traditional recipes from their ancestors, like, and they are basically interviewing their grandmothers to collect the authentic food recipes. They are also trying to rehabilitate handicrafts in its traditional production system, and they are trying to preserve the cultural archaeological sites. So we have trainings to actors on design, quality improvement, price forming, and marketing of food and handicrafts. Opening of the handicraft store in Rasht, which is the center of the province, capacity development of artisans and families in order to income generation, networking among the actors in Mosul County, which is getting more and more stronger instead of negatively competing each other. And there is negotiations going on to establish a rural lifestyle museum in the region. So these are the products that are internationally registered by World Crafts Council from this certain county of Mosul. And there are also recommendations for the future. I'm recommending myself and my team and also the others that are using this experience in their own region. So community-based tourism provides a more sustainable alternative than mass tourism, no doubt. But it is very important to take into account and to appreciate the role of community leaders from the beginning of the process and to ensure the partnership and equal voice for everyone, which are local beneficiaries of this or potential beneficiaries of this community-based tourism. And it's important that after designing the process, planning the process, and implementing it, the local communities set participatory monitoring and management themselves. So it's very important to have a self-evaluation and self-management system and to sit together at the end of the year and review the lessons you've learned and also not just the success stories, but the failures, which would teach you more than your success stories, believe me. So, and then always be open to potentials for political, social, economic, and psychological empowerment. For example, we had a training for 3 months on life skills for local women and girls in the villages of this region, which we've learned a lot together. And at the end of the day, you would see that you have like a long path, but you have still steps forward to achieve sustainability, harmony, and cultural integrity, but it is moving forward. So thank you for your time and for listening to this case study from northern Iran. And I invite you all to come and visit the Mosul County, Shalma village yourself. Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Okay. Thank you very much for your another good piece of paper in which you have talked about this case study of the village you belong to, and very nicely elaborated the community-based tourism and benefits from it. And also you talked about the sustainability and the role of partnership in ecotourism in your case study village. So once again, thank you very much for your time and for your presentation. Now I will call upon, namaste. I will call upon Dr. Stefano Duglio. He is Associate Professor in Environmental Management System, Department of Management, and Vice President, NAT-RISC, Interdepartmental Research Center on Natural Risk in Mountain and Hilly Environment, University of Torino, Italy. And his presentation is on models of sustainable tourism, case study of agri-tourism in mountains of Italian Alps. And I will not take much time. I invite you, sir, and the floor is yours. You can start now.
Okay, thank you. Many thanks, Professor, for your introduction, and many thanks to the organizer, and in particular to Dr. Ashat for inviting me today to share let me say, both the methodologies and the results that we have provided by carrying out a research project in small mountain communities in the Italian Alps. Well, the title is Model of Sustainable Tourism, a case of agritourism. Why agritourism? Because thanks to a specific and devoted project in Emeritus Eco-Management for Agritourism in Mountain Areas, we have tried to integrate two different supply chains, the agricultural supply chain and the tourism sector. Working from the very beginning with local stakeholders and local actors. So we created an advisory board starting from the local community and in particular the municipality of Valpato Soana, the location, the place in which we have worked, and the metropolitan area of Torino, the Association for Farmers, Coldiretti, the Chamber of Commerce, and a very important local player. The first ever established Italian national park, the Gran Paradiso National Park, dated 1922. Well, we had two main goals. The first one was to create an eco-management model specifically devoted to marginal mountain regions in order to improve the connection between these two supply chains, the agriculture and tourism, because we do think that in this kind of mountain areas, the so-called marginal Italian mountain areas, we can rely specifically on these two kinds of, let me say, activities, farm and the hospitality sector. In doing so, we tried to, let me say, to improve the relationship between local actors. One of the great problems that normally we have to cope with is the need to make it possible for local operators to communicate each other in order to share a common vision for a better territorial development. And in our vision for developing a territorial area in a more sustainable way. So this is the reason why from the very beginning we involved local actors, local operators in order to, let me say, to define, to draft new ways for creating tourism solutions that are in the meantime, let me say, local operator-based tourism solution. Well, we are located more or less in this area. Okay, Torino is located more or less in this area, so in the northwest of the Italian Alps, in a region that is called the Piedmont region. The Piedmont region, because basically the name Piedmont means on the feet of mountains. And indeed, the metropolitan area of Torino, the city where I live, is surrounded by most important mountains in the Italian Alps. So all the 5,000 peaks are in the Aosta Valley, but they are quite easily detectable from the city of Torino. And the mountains, the mountain ranges accounts for about 50% of the total regional surface. But on the other hand, we have to underline that the mountain communities are very different, even if we are discussing about the same administrative region. Indeed, we can recognize some mountain communities that are, let me say, very well developed, considering social and economic indicators, but on the other hand, we can recognize several mountain communities. Each patch basically means a municipality, so a very well-defined let me say, small mountain communities that have high level of marginality. So in our research, we decided to concentrate our attention especially in this region, a very small mountain valleys called the Soana mountain valleys, with high or medium level of marginality in terms of socio and economic indicators, because on the other hand, when we have to discuss about the level of biodiversity, these areas are really rich in terms of biodiversity, thanks to the presence of the first Italian national park, the Gran Paradise National Park. Well, for giving you the picture of this mountain community, Valle Soana is composed by 3 municipalities. For about all the municipalities together count about 500 inhabitants, so a very small mountain community that lives in a surface of about 18,000 hectares, starting from 600 meters and 3,000 meters above sea level. Well, of course, we have 3 main municipalities with several hamlets, and population is scattered for all the different secondary mountain valleys that altogether compose the Soana Valley. And of course, this situation reflects on the economic activities and the economic fabric of this area. In fact, when we discuss about agriculture in this specific environment, we have to highlight that only a very minimum amount of land, more or less 1 hectare, is devoted to crops and to other kind of food products. But overall, only more or less 700 hectares, about 3.7% of the overall surface, is devoted to agriculture, in particular to pastoralism and to livestock breeding, that represent an important activity for the valley, thanks to which we can provide several kinds of local food products, mountain local food products, starting from different kinds of cheese, honey, and so on. But in any case, we are discussing about niche production and niche products that we need to valorize in order to make it possible for local farmers to take advantages on the fact that they are producing in a very rich environment in terms of biodiversity. Well, on the other hand, when we discuss about the tourism sector, well, the tourism sector is something underdeveloped in these areas, differently from other mountain areas in the Piedmont region. The Soana Valley wasn't able to rely on the ski industry, and that is great in some ways, because the form of tourism that we can appreciate in this part of my region is much more related to a form of sustainable tourism or ecotourism with a bottom-up, let me say, a bottom-up approach. So each new form of tourism starts from the local people and the local measure that try to identify new form of tourism, always paying attention to the territory, to the carrying capacity of the territory. In this specific area, we can rely on a couple of hotels, a bivouac for the great crossing of the Alps, La Grande Traversée des Alpes, because the tourism in this area is basically rely on hikers and climbers. And in terms of arrivals and presence, we don't have many arrivals and presence during the years. And what's more, the average duration of stay is about 1.7 days. So we need to improve a little bit in terms of arrival and presence in order to improve in terms of average duration of stay. Because if we are able to switch from 1.7 days for each tourist to 2 or 3 days for each tourist, well, these tourists will be able to give more money and more follow-ups in the territory. Well, a couple of pictures only to show you the typical landscape of this kind of valleys. We started by analyzing, by considering the two supply chain in a separate way in order to integrate all the data in an eco-management tool. So we started by analyzing the agricultural supply chains, as usual, starting from official sources, but also thanks to the help of the local operators. I completely agree with the previous panelist. The involvement of the local operator is the key point when we try to define a way of sustainable tourism, or above all, when we need to try to find out a new way for developing an areas, local areas. So this is the reason why we created 2 different kind of forums, the stakeholder forums, with all the, let me say, all the public entities, public associations, useful in order to carry out all the different analysis and the research. But we also created a so-called operators forum, thanks to which we were able to share the ongoing results, the ongoing methodologies of our research in order to have their feedback for, let me say, for creating new way for the research itself. Then, together with the analysis of the Montal agricultural supply chain, we made a set of analysis for having an understanding on, especially on the pastoral systems, so the grazing management, but also, let me say, the quality of forage, the quality of the different vegetation partners, in order to understand if and how much it is able to improve in terms of both the qualitative and the quantitative aspect of the food products, the local food products. And as far as the tourism sector is concerned, we studied both the demand and the offering in order to detect if there were some important differences between the tourism offering and the tourist expectations and the tourist needs and demand, so that all, let me say, the outcomes deriving from the first, the second, and the third phase have filled the so-called environmental preliminary analysis. The EPA, the EPA is a specific document requested by the international standardization when implementing an environmental management systems. to be certified by a third independent entity. Our final aim wasn't the certification in accordance with an international standard. Our final aim was the implementation of an eco-management model based on the community needs and expectation. In order to give, let me say, a master plan for developing future actions and future tourism activities. Well, analysis of a mountain agricultural supply chains. We focus our attention on the one hand, a very niche local production and specifically the production of GNP. GNP is an alpine plant that normally is used in order to produce alcohol. We have for a very strong alcohol, I would add. We have for local farmers that are in this kind of business. Of course, the production are very limited, but in collaboration with the Grand Paradiso National Park, our local farmers we were able to use very local plant in order to produce alcohol, to try to produce other kind of secondary, let me say, food products. But our attention was specifically concentrated on pastoralism. So the first thing that we tried to do, and I think we did it quite well, was a vegetation mapping. So basically, we went to all our 14 pastoralism areas in order to assess, to evaluate, to find out the different kind of vegetations. So we were able to map 42 pastoral types out of 93 pastoral types that normally we can recognize in my region. So that means that there is a high level of biodiversity in this area, and this first indicator, a couple of pictures in order to show you a typical pastoralism environment, divided into the two main vegetation types that we were able to detect, together with the other vegetation types, of course. And this first evaluation make it possible for us to define a first indicator, the forage quality, that together with other indicator much more related to the grazing management, so the areas interested by fertility, the state of the buildings, the availability of water for cattle, and the different kind of cheese production, made it possible to create a synthesis index that was shared with all our farmers in order to understand where and how much they may be able to improve their activities in order to produce maybe the same kind and the same quantity of cheese or derivatives from cheese, from milk, sorry, but on the other hand, in order to improve the quality of their production, quality that are based on very, very strong elements as the vegetation plants that we have detected during the analysis. Well, so one part of our research was devoted to study specifically to study the agriculture and the pastoralism sector. On the other hand, in a separate way, and this part is much more related to my specific expertise, was devoted to study the tourism sector, and in particular for both the tourism offering and the demand. We adopted a so-called participatory approach. So we started by interviewing basically the local operators in order to have an idea of their vision about the tourism, both in terms of tourists and in terms of offering of tourist activities. So we made 17 interviews out of 21 operators. So 90% of all our operators, we are discussing of a very small mountain communities, starting from the public administrators, so the three major of Inghero, Longo Canavese, and Vapato Soana, hospitality facilities, more or less everybody, and the 5 retailers. We adopt a technique, so-called the Delphi methodology. So our interviews were semi-structured interviews using always the same kind of document in order to point out common points even among different kind of stakeholder. We use all this kind of information in order to create a diagram that for sure you know, the so-called SWOT analysis. So it's a diagram that is able to divide, to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the territory. And in a devoted forum, we discuss our SWOT analysis with all the operators. Divided the operators into subgroups in order to converge all the different outputs derived from our first SWOT analysis into several key points. So we adopted the so-called nominal group technique. So in order to start from the local community, in order to start by involving local operators and the local community for creating what my colleague has defined in a very effective way as a community-based tourism, we decided to adopt a mixed methodology with a Delphi method technique cross with a nominal group technique in a devoted forum in order to find out basic key points useful for drafting the mentioned master plan for creating new vision in terms of tourism offering. One of the outcome of this activity was the fact that we were able to create, after this experience, we were able to create permanent working groups of local operators that discuss together with the measure in order to find out a common solution. So it was quite interesting, this phase. So starting from the single operator, in this case, the vice mayor of the municipality of Longo Canavese, we were able to create our first SWOT analysis. Then in a specific forum of operators with all the local actors, we discuss on common outputs in order to draft elements useful for having a new vision. So among the strengths, for instance, the presence of a protected area, but also a very strong natural and cultural heritage. So a very strong identity, local identity. So this was one of the key points. We should start from the local identity. Our local identity is quite peculiar, together with the natural heritage, in order to understand which kind of tourism we would like for the future. Because we have to understand that there may be some threats when discussing about tourism and mass tourism, as the colleague from the Carpathian has pointed out in a very well way. Mass tourism represents a threat for the local community, especially for small local communities, and local communities are well aware of this kind of potential problem, because mass tourism can drive to a loss of the cultural heritage that, on the other hand, is seen as a very positive and a key point to be developed and to be preserved. Among the opportunities, protected area again, the role of the second homes, it's quite typical in this part of the Italian Alps, is a specific, a peculiar characteristics of this part of the Italian Alps, and the fact that we are so close to a quite important river center. So Torino counts for about 1 million of inhabitants. So it may be interesting to understand how we can reach this critical mass, how we can interact with such a critical mass in order to stimulate the tourism sector. Well, all these results, methodologies, outcomes are free. You can download it. You can find it by downloading this paper, published on sustainability and open access, journal that you can find quite easily on the web, of course. I'm sure you know it. We started by involving people, then we decided to understand what about the tourism destination itself. Because people, local actors may have an idea. So we are a sustainable tourism destination. We have a very strong cultural and natural identity. We should base the tourism on these two main factors, avoiding mass tourism and so on. But what about the destination now? In order to understand the destination at that specific moment, I'm referring to 2019, we decided to apply a model created by Weber, a model for destination management, for defining the sustainable destination management, theorized by Weber, a qualitative model, and we try to create a quantitative presentation of these specific areas. So the goal of this part was to analyze the sustainability of the Soana Valley and compare them with other mountain municipalities in the area. Very briefly, the Weber model divide destination, tourist destination into 4 different typologies, depending on 2 main factors: the level of tourism intensity and the level of regulation. So thanks to this classification, we can basically recognize 4 kinds of tourism destination: the so-called mass tourism destination, that can be sustainable mass tourism destination or unsustainable mass tourism destination, or the so-called niche destination that can be sustainable niche destination or unsustainable niche.
Excuse me. Yeah, Professor Stefano, you have 2 minutes left.
How many minutes? Sorry, I didn't catch it.
2 minutes left. Yeah.
Okay. So very briefly, we use a set of indicators. We use 7 indicators after selecting these 7 indicators, starting from 41 indicators. You can find all the methodology and the results in this specific presentation. And we were able to note that indeed our our area can be classified as a niche sustainable mountain destination. Well, so here you will be able to find out all the details in order to see this work. Well, third and last part of the tourism research was devoted to understand the opinions and expectations of the tourists. So we interview 500 Italian tourists. The tourism in this valley is a form of eat and run tourism. So we specifically decided to study the one-day tourism in order to understand how these tourist interacts with the local environment. Just a couple of hints for completing the picture. There is an interest in purchasing local food products. There is an interest in activity in gastronomy activities. Is the third reason for visiting this valley. There is a good interaction with local actors in purchasing and tasting local food recipes or in purchasing local food products. On the other end, when we discuss the revenue on the territory, the revenue is very, very, very small because even assuming a liberal scenario, in this, we hope ongoing publication, you will be able to find out all the results indeed. Even assuming a liberal scenario, the average expenditure for each tourist is about 20 euros. So not so much compared to other mountain destinations. So why all these deliverables? All the deliverables were used in order to fill the management system, and in particular the environmental preliminary analysis that based on the international standardization with the leadership of the local community, of course, the interaction with all the stakeholders, the local stakeholders and the tourists, all the different outcomes deriving from the different phases, so market of products, tourism management, competitors, legal requirements, and so on, agricultural and tourism chain, retailers, farmer, and operators of the hospitality industry. Well, all these outcomes were used in order to fill the strategic plan, thanks to which the local community, and in particular the Patoswana municipality, together with the other two municipalities, are using for drafting the new activities for the following years. And we are interacting together with those municipalities for creating new opportunities for the local development. Well, all the references are listed in these two slides, and I'm so sorry if I went a little bit late. Many thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for this very methodologically very rich presentation, in which you have now introduced this agri-tourism. I think it is new concept in the domain of tourism. And also you just described that this mountain agriculture supply chain, and also you have mapped the area of that case study area where you conducted this study. The pictures were very beautiful also. And one important thing I have understood, your SWOT analysis of this agri-tourism. So in all, and your methodology is so rich, as I observed. So in all, it was very good presentation, and I thank you very much for your presentation once again. Professor Stefano. And now we will move for the delegates presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So if the organizers allow, we can move for the delegates presentation, as we have 5 presenters here. Dr. Hasrat. So anyway, I will move for this. I will move for delegates presentation, and we have 5 delegates. They have to present, and we will provide 10 minutes to each presenter. So, and you have to finish within 10 minutes. So I would like to call upon Dr. Elena Maria from Ukraine, and her topic of presentation is rural areas classification with indicators of tourism and recreation industries. So may I call Dr. Elena Maria?
Hello, dear colleagues. Do you hear me?
So, the floor is yours now. You can present within
Fine.
10 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, dear colleagues, greetings from Ukraine. I'm Maria Ilyina, Institute of Environmental Economics and Sustainable Development in National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine. So, and my paper is Rural Areas Classification with Indicators of Tourism and the Recreation Industry. It's more about some methods and approaches to research and to estimate tourism industry in Ukraine. It is to assess the resources, tourism capacity of some areas in Ukraine and make appropriate differentiation or classification of the territories. And with it, mostly we mean territories of rural communities, first of all, towns and villages. And we applied several methods for the research. With structural analysis, we described the composition of key recreational resources in Ukraine. Economic methods we used to assess the industry's status, and with statistics we classified areas. The evaluation of recreational capacity of territories was the aim. For that, we used some set of indicators. There are natural resources state and scope in Ukraine in rural areas. We mean natural resources for tourism, not all natural resources, but only for tourism and recreation. Infrastructure of the industry, economic efficiency of it, and some social benefits which local communities can get from the tourism. And as well, ecological or environmental status of some areas. In both cases, we applied the indexes where 1 means the best situation or the highest level and 0 is the worst or the lowest. Key indicators to assess the tourism industry are assets, economic, firstly, financial assets. We mean capacity of hotels and camps and spa resorts. Production, we mean volume of the provided services, and financial and economic efficiency of it, we mean income, which hotels can get from tourists, costs, profits, and so on. And as well, we selected some indicators or parameters of the environment improvement. There are setting of new ecological roads, informing locals on benefits associated with recreational affiliation of an area, environmental management on the local level, and so on. With it, we identified 4 groups of regions in Ukraine depending on the development of tourism industry. The first one has the lowest values of the indicators and has been defined as the depressed regions. The fourth one has the highest indicators and has been defined as a leading regions. The second and the third groups have intermediate indicators values and have been defined as below averages and above average. The low values usually happen because of poor infrastructure of the hotels for tourists. There are Zhytomyrska and Sumska regions in Ukraine because of hotels, as well in Kirovogradska and Kharkivska regions because of health resorts. One should notice the lowest level of recreational natural resources capacities in Zhytomyrska and Kirovogradska regions as well. State of the environment, first of all, we mean air pollution, is the destimulator indicator for Dnipropetrovsk and Luhansk region. Because of small number of visitors, the recreation industry is inefficient, again, in Zhytomyrsk and Kirovogradsk region. Mostly the reasons are a few travelers and underuse of available spa, hotels, and health resorts. The highest values of the recreational and tourist industry are in Zakarpatska and Odessa region. Despite the regions have pretty low indicators for natural and recreational resources capacity and number of camps. Those factors may cut the recreational potential of the regions down since the situation means the available recreational resources are used not efficiently enough. Conclusively, if we talk about tourism industry in Ukraine, one should note a certain discrepancy between its capacity and intensity and efficiency of the use. The conclusion is true for all regions in Ukraine, and only the coastal regions and cities with historical, cultural, and some architectural sites of interest, like Kyiv, Lviv, Chernivtsi, Ivano-Frankivsk, and Zakarpattia, still have some prospects for the industry's development. As well, in Ukraine, we define that unlike areas, we mean urban and rural, are very different on the environment, infrastructure, and economic efficiency of the industry. And therefore, we classified areas with, we divided for that them depending on types of settlements. With indicators of rural population share and availability of urban centers, we distinguished rural, urban, and intermediate areas. Rural areas in Ukraine occupy over 90% of the country's area and half of the population. Therefore, rural areas have been additionally divided by urban-like and remote, with indicators of the population and average distance to large cities. Next, we distinguished areas by the recreational and tourist capacity and the efficiency of the use. It helps to determine the better approaches for urban, rural, urban-like, and rural remote areas. Accordingly, for the advantageous areas, we recommend the recreational specialization policy.
I think that some problem with Dr. Maria, network problem. Dr. Maria, you are online.
Sir, her network is down.
Yeah, it is gone. Also, time is
Yeah, you please can
yeah,
wait.
10 minutes. Yeah,
Okay,
it is already done. Yes. So thank you, Dr. Maria, for your presentation. Yeah, you can unmute. You can unmute. You can unmute. Unmute. Others. Unmute. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi.
Yes. So anyway, your time is also over. Thank you very much for your presentation. Yeah, it was very nice one, and time is already over. So thank you very much. I will call upon another presenter. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Okay, thank you. So is there Mr. Adilet from Kyrgyzstan?
No, he is absent.
Okay. So I would like to call Dr. Virgil Nicola, yes. Virgil Nicola.
Dr. Virgil Nicola and myself, we have both a presentation. I present, if it's possible, of course.
Okay. So Dr. Virgil, you have 10 minutes to make your presentation complete. So you can present now.
Thank you. Okay, I suppose you will see my screen.
Yeah, no, screen share is not there. We cannot see your screen.
We see my screen now?
Yes. It is coming. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, my name is Simona Spânu from Faculty of Agricultural Sciences, Food Industry and Environmental Protection, Lucian Blaga, University of Sibiu, Romania, and with Dr. Virgil Nicola from the same university, Faculty of Economics. We present you sustainable development of Mărginimea Sibiului, Romania, through ecotourism and cultural tourism. Here is a map of Sibiu County with Mărginimea Sibiului area located in southwest of our county. Mărginimea Sibiului has become during the last years a famous tourist attraction visited by thousands of foreign and Romanian tourists and established brand. Mărginimea Sibiului is the most well-known area of Sibiu. Here, sheep breeding is a way of life reflected in the rhythm of daily activities. Using the experience of Sibiu cultural capital, European capital, Mărginimea Sibiului was designed the most romantic ecotourist destination, where the main objectives of the presentation is to unfold a pattern from promoting cultural ecotourism for local communities regarding Sibiu area. Mărginimea Sibiului was awarded in 29 with the Golden Apple Trophy. This trophy is the equivalent of the Oscar in tourism. The development of ecotourism and cultural tourism in this area contributes to preservation of natural heritage and biodiversity, preservation of cultural heritage and traditional value, and facilitating sustainable long-term economic activities. There are a lot of images from this area. The means of promoting cultural ecotourism for local communities outline scientific solutions that back the social development and contribute to the improvement of its human condition. Statistical data on the evolution of tourism indicators in Marginia Sibiului between 2018 and 2020 shows increasing interest manifested both among tourists from Romania and abroad, even in pandemic situation. You see in this graphic number of days for tourists. In April and May was lockdown, total lockdown in Romania. That's why there are no data from this month. With an original offer, Sibiu County can be successful in tourism and mostly in cultural ecotourism. Using the experience of Sibiu Cultural European Capital from 27 and European Region of Gastronomy 2019, we consider that cultural ecotourism is an opportunity for Sibiu to become ecotourist and cultural destination on the European touristic map, not only for foreigner visitors, but for Romanian too. The inhabitants lead a traditional existence, but they are receptive to the new. The project we carried out in this area from 2011 to 2017 focused on making the population accountable for reducing the carbon footprint and the weather footprint and water footprint in the tourist villages of Marginia Sibiului. Through a correct and well-documented information campaign, we managed to make the guest house manager act in a more responsible manner and turn the tourist activities in the area into more environmentally friendly ones for the benefit of whole community. Number of tourist arrivals is increasing. Same tourist overnight. The cultural ecotourism represents an important step in education on eco-economic and bioeconomic principles for the population in order to be aware for the value regarding the cultural and ecotouristic heritage. Cultural events and the ethno-folklore activities, traditional products, other creative activities. The tourist products link cultural ecotourism represented the best alternatives among economy, culture, and environment protection, and are meant to be adequate financial economic instruments for a permanent promotion of tourist action, of turning into account the cultural heritage of the ecotouristic area. Rural tourism and ecotourism represent, too, an alternative for employment for labor force in the countryside a way to diversify rural economy and bring income source for the inhabitants within the rural area. The ECOC in 27 did not in itself produce an increase in the quality of the experience, but it seems that the legacy of the event is a notably increased visit quality. The image of Sibiu has remained fairly positive since 27. The way of life for rural population is connected with a rich material and immaterial heritage that gives specific identity for the village. This element of originality must be preserved and turned into account in a superior manner. Rural tourists use the crisis as a catalyst for change. Ecotourism is a tourism which directly or indirectly promotes and supports sustainable economic development. Therefore, Mărginima Sibiului should follow the example of other regions with very rich natural and ecologic reserve, for which ecotourism was become an important source of income. Ecotourism is to integrate tourism development and to share the benefits of the community level. Ecotourism is a vehicle for strengthening the balance of local economic development and the conservation of biological and cultural diversity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dr. Simona, for your very good presentation. So I will call upon now another presenter delegate, who is Dr. Hostuk Zoriana from Ukraine. And the title of presentation is Landscape Background for Tourism and Recreational Development in Carpathian Mountain area. Is Dr. Hostuk Zoriana there? Okay. Okay, now the floor is yours. You have 10 minutes to deliver.
Can you see?
Yes, yes, we can see. Yes. Yes, you continue, please.
Thank you. My name is Zoriana Hostuk, Gutsushina National Nature Park, Ukraine. Landscape basis for the tourism development in Pokutya Carpathians, Ukrainian Carpathians. The favorable conditions of nature conditionals, geological structure, relief, climate, water, soil, and flora covering of the Pokutya Carpathians one of the most diverse natural and
Hello. Somebody's mic is unmute. Allah, Dr. Allah, your mic is unmute. Please mute. Hello.
The special distribution of the attraction and natural, including nature protection territories and objects, is revealed. Landscape terrain assessment is basis on the degree of favorable tourism and recreation as. Location. The Pokutya Carpathians are part of the Ukraine Carpathians, which is located between the Prut River and its right back tributary Cheremush within the Kosiv and partly Verkhovena district of Ivano-Frankivsk region. The aim of our study was the analysis the natural conditions of the region researched. The ultimate goal was to assess the degree of favorability of the landscape complex for the recreations and tourism activities. The natural conditions of the Pokutya Carpathians are characteristic by a considerable diversity due to the peculiarities of geological structure and relief, temperature, continental climate, at rich biological and landscape diversity. For the Pokutya middle land, there is a predominance of the forest vegetation. The chain ridge are occupied by after forest meadows, and the view village are confined to the bottom of the river valleys. Geomorphological structure. According to the tectonic zoning, to the study area belongs to the inner zone Pokutya covering of the Prekarpattia, Lagging Beach and the Skibian Carpathian zones, which are structural part of the Carpathian fault region. From the geomorphological point of the view, the Pokutya Carpathians belong to the sub-region of the Pokutsko-Bukovensky Carpathians, two discrete, the low hill terrain regions of the Pokutya-Bukovensky Carpathians and the regions of the mid-hill terrain of Skibian Pokutya Carpathians. The highest ridges peak. On the Pokutya Carpathians territory, there are number of interesting geological objects that have been granted the status of the nature monuments. In addition to the geological monuments of nature in the low mountain of the Pokutya Carpathians, there are a stone complex on the separate ridge that are scientific, cognitive, sport, megalithic, and as athletic value. The largest of them are the strong complex on the Sotilsky chain, Chernoshora Hill, the Doubush stone in Pesanay Kamen Hill. Climate. The Pokutski Carpathians climate, as already mentioned, is moderately continental with a non-lethal summer and middle winter. Most of the precipitation occurs in the warm period, March, November, 73, 87%. A permanent snow cover is in the second half of January and melting at the end of March. Sustained snow covering and the presence of the several leaves, Kosiv, Yavoriv, village Shashore are the basis for the development of winter recreation, ski, snowboarding, sledding. River. A significant amount of precipitation contributes of the formation of the densely river-sage network in the Pokutski Carpathians. The rivers of the studied belong to the Prut basin. The largest of them are the Black Cheremush, Berezhnitsa, and Iltsa rivers, which have a long tidal stretch, while the Luchka, Pistinka, Rybnitsa, Cheremush river cross at Pokutski lowland. The rivers of the Pokutya Carpathians have gorge-like valleys with waterfalls and rivers in the channels. The largest waterfalls are the famous Shashore waterfalls and the Pistinka river and Kosivsky Huke on the Rybnitsa river. Water objects are activity asset for recreation and tourism. The slope, the flow velocity, the width of the channel, the fullness, the presence of rapids, and rolls of varying complexity in the channel of the Black Cheremush create excellent conditions for the extreme type of water recreation rafting. Forest found of the Pokutya Carpathians occupies more than half of their area, 28%. Forests are characterized by high diversity of species.
Hello, Dr.
Forest
Zoriana.
And tape. Yes.
You have, hello. You
Yes,
have
yes.
you have only 1 minute.
Thank you. While the middle wild of the Pokutski Karpaty is rich and varied, the Saskrofa, Malus Malus, Vulpes Vulpes, and other. A nature reservation on the territory Pokutya Carpathians, it is 27 objects nature reservation. Most it is National Natural Park Gutulshchina. Conclusion. The Pokutki Carpathians are characterized by a large variety of natural conditions, relief, geological structure, climate, water, resource, vegetation, soil, fauna, and landscape complex in general, and have significant recreation tourism potential. Nature conservation areas and objects are important for the development of tourism and recreation is particular the National Natural Park Hutuchina and hydrological reserves, the Blackcheremo, Shrebnica and Pistinka River. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Zoriana, for your presentation. Thank you so much. And now we have the another presenter is Dr. Ala from Ukraine, and her topic of presentation is postmodern transformation of rural tourism development. So may I call upon Dr. Ala? Dr. Ala, may I call upon you for your presentation? Dr. Ala, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Videos. Can see?
No, we cannot see anything.
Not. Not video?
Yeah, it is not seen. Can you share your presentation?
Yes.
Please
Yes.
share. Please share.
Yes. Dear colleagues, dear partners, dear students, and dear Dr. Hasrat. My name is Ala Pechenyuk. I'm a chairperson Institute of Socio-Economic Regional Studies and associate professor from in the State Agrarian and Engineering University in Podila, Ukraine, Kam'янets-Podilsky. I want to present my research on postmodern transformation of rural tourism development. Just a moment, my presentation.
Yes, it is visible.
Yes.
And you have only 10 minutes.
Just a moment. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. The theme of postmodern transformation of rural tourism development determines a broad philosophical discourse on whether postmodernism is our future. The basis of existing sociological discourse is in postmodern tourism is the definition of two vectors, simulation, fake, and other research. The first direction is related to hyperrealistic analysis simulation.
The second direction is related to the search for real, the deep, the search for oneself, one's roots, defines the attractiveness of natural and rural areas as postmodern expressions. The phenomenon of postmodern influences.
Dr. Allah,
yes.
Please move your slides, because only the front page is coming. Yeah, it's okay. You continue. You continue. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. The phenomenon of postmodern influences in tourism can be considered from several aspects. Figure 1. First aspect, information and technology. It led to the emergence of a new type of human consciousness, which is simultaneously the creator, carrier, and consumer of information. In our opinion, the level of availability of information technologies in a certain tourist direction is important in the issue of postmodern transformation of rural tourism development. In general, the average world penetration of the internet is about 60%, in Ukraine 56%. It significantly hinders the development of tourism in the context of attraction mass postmodern tourist. 2. Society. Postmodern philosophy has led to the formation of a society of spectacles, the ultimate product of which is the image. To complete the study of postmodern tourism society, consider the characteristic of the evolution of the types of social relation in the context of tourism development, which are shown in table 1. The above information indicates the presence of similar features between archaic society, modern and postmodern society. Common features are their focus on the individual consumer, liberalization, lack of clear guidelines subject to global mechanism in postmodernism. Related are also the problem of man and the definition of his place in tourist consumption. The pity of human extends while maintaining its integrity in the first case and reducing social context and increasing the fragmentation of life in the second. The big problem is the increasing tourist marginalization of the population. 3. Socio-cultural. The high degree of development of cultural competence reduces the preconditions for the formation and spread of tourist poverty. 4. Personal, psychological. Postmodern influences have formed a new personality, the post-tourist. This is a modern type of consumer who has a considerable experience of tourist travel, but satisfied with imitation of reality. The main stimulus for consumptions is emotions, experiences, and memories. Figure 2. Postmodern transformation create certain opportunity for tourist destination. taking into account the tourism concept of the dream industry in the rural community development strategy can be defined as hyper reality with appropriate content. In this sense, the main purpose of a tourist trip will not be just a physical visit to the destination, but the satisfaction of their own sensory component and emotional relaxation. The negative consequences of postmodern tourist influences include destruction of national identity and culture, natural environment, depopulation of rural areas, formation of artificial reality to expect tourists, a significant mythologizing of sacred places, a hypertrophy of the effect of presence
Dr. Ala?
of local cultural so.
Yeah, excuse me, you have only 1 minute left.
Yes, thank you. Cultural features as a way to end its preserving absolutization and hyperbolization, accompanied by a sense of play and falsehood, the illusion of understanding between the cultures, reducing the public space of rural communities, then orderliness of real life and the word, the spirit of nomadism. A significant leap in the development of information technology necessitates the transition of tourism to another level, which will cover the direction of virtual social life. At that some time today, the debatable issues are to determine the positive and negative benefits of postmodern tourism transformation, which can be considered both from the standpoint of mass postmodern tourism consumer and from the standpoint of personal development. Thank you for attention. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ala, for your presentation. Thank you so much. And the last presenter of this delegate session is Dr. Christina Nicholas.
Thank you, and hello to everybody. Thank you, Dr. Sati. And
yeah, you are welcome,
hello.
and you have 10 minutes with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just started to share my screen. Is it visible, please?
Yes, it is visible, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, hello everyone from Romania, from Valahia University of the city of Târgoviște, a city of about 80,000 inhabitants, just 80 kilometers nearby Bucharest capital. So, hello everyone from all over the world. And thank you for the opportunity to present today. You may see on this slide what's the content that I am trying to speak. I will be hopefully within the minutes that have been allocated to me. About the organic farming, I will just present shortly because it was discussed previously and also in previous days, as well as about some treaties, international or European level treaties that speak about organic farming and bioagriculture and biodiversity. Then few words on correlation between local needs and the research and innovation we are performing in universities and research centers. And in the end, a few words about experience of Wallachia University team that has been working on some comparisons in these comparison studies in this area. So with regards to organic farming, a lot of things have been already discussed in this summer school. I just want to point out on this slide, this last row that you might know for sure, most of you, that the European Union has some ambitious plans with this Green Deal that was adopted in the end of 2019, and it was actually started to be discussed all over the member states between up to now in 2020 and 2021. A lot of measures have been already started to be implemented. Just one word here about how, according to Eurostat, which is the European Office for Statistics that are collected from all over the member states, one may observe that the organic farming area had growth, a significant growth in the last years. My presentation is up to the year 2019, just because this is the availability of statistical data. But just to have an idea, you may see how the increase has been recorded. And I am happy to see, while I made this documented search for this presentation, that my country, Romania, also had a significant increase from the year 2012 up to the year 2019. Here I just wanted to give the most updated data, just that for the year 2020, no data were available for all the states. So this is why actually my comments are all referring to this 2019, which is also just nearby. So you may see that actually the increase was of about 46% at the level of EU27. And once these numbers are compared, just let's keep in mind that in these statistics, total organic area is made of some certified area plus area under conversion from conventional to organic, because you might know that this process may take 2 or 3 years. In terms of distribution of these organic farming areas around the EU27, we may observe that there are some countries, I mean, more than 50% are made of these countries that are, let's say, champion of organic farming at the level of European Union. But as I said just before, most of the countries within the European Union had increased their organic farming areas. And just about the EU Green Deal, I would like to emphasize that one of the ambition is that 25% of the total farmland under organic farming will be dedicated to organic farming by 2030. And one of the, I mean, two of the important steps that have been already done is the adoption of from farm to fork strategy, as well as the adopted Horizon Europe program, which is a research and innovation program. You most of you already know about this. At least we in countries of European Union are looking for the call for proposals for research projects that are published. Then one word on this slide with regards to the importance of correlation between research and innovation to local needs. And this may lead to a better implementation of organic farming. And now in the last minutes that I will take, I just want to introduce you colleagues around the world to some actions, some research and innovation actions that we've been performing here in Wallachia University of Târgoviște, Romania. I've just put here two pillars. One was we've been involved in valorization of some products that are usually considered byproducts or secondary products, byproducts, and we've been studied them with regards to phytochemical composition, and in the end we've succeeded by generating some added value by obtaining some cosmetical products. In the other pillar, I will give some information about a project that we have under implementation at the moment, and where we are dealing with the storage of fresh fruits, both from the perspective of phytochemistry, but as well as from the perspective of using IoT, Internet of Things, for monitoring the quality of storage. So these are the details that we've been doing. Actually, we did a study taking two parallel vineyards. One was in conventional management system, the other one in organic system, and we studied the same 4 grape varieties from each of it. And then we made some extractions with different solvents and with different extraction methods. We've published this information, and I will give just in next slide some links. So what we have done here was to apply physicochemical and instrumental analysis to study the characteristics of the byproducts resulted from this.
Hello, Christina.
Conventional. Yes, it's most probably I'm at the limit.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Right. Okay, so 1 minute. Do I have 1 minute more?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you then. Okay, so anyhow, I will be finishing soon. So I just wanted to say that actually we decided that one of the organic vineyards was proved to be very valuable for some cosmetic products, and we sent also a patent application that is approved at the moment. And this also is another project where we've been studying this comparison between organic and conventional cultures. But well, some details might be seen in this open access materials, if they open or if that not. So this is a book chapter that you may see on this site. Or also there are some other publications that you may see on the website. So I think this is it, and thank you for your attention and for following me on this presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Christina, so much for your presentation. Now this technical session 9.2 is over. and we had 4 faculty presentations and 5 delegates presentation here. And now I invite the chair, Professor Poyamoli, to take this session and then summarize the presentations were presented here. The all summary, please present. I call upon Dr. Professor Poyamoli ji. Professor Poyamoli, can you hear me?
Sir, he is absent. He has gone. He has gone, I think.
Okay, acha.
He is not.
So now I think you can say something and then we will stop.
If you want to summarize, then you can do, please.
I have the already done in between.
Oh.
No? Yeah.
Okay, so I will just simply close.
Okay.
Close. I won't say anything.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah. Let me. Yeah. Thank you, Professor. You have wonderfully conducted this session and moderated this. Professor Poyamoli was here with us, but he pre-informed that he will simply open the session and go. So
okay.
So yeah, the lectures were very wonderful. Mona was with us. She has taken 2 lectures on very special request from our side. So she was wonderful. Then Mariana also presented nicely, and Mariana is very well doing in the mountains near in this Yarenche area. Professor Stefano was wonderfully presenting, but at the last moment his system stuck, I think, because of the connectivity. But yeah, he is very good. Also, we requested him to give a lecture, and then he accepted the invitation and did very well. So he's quite connected and renowned professor in his area in Italy. Among the presentations, Dr. Elena is very senior. Dr. Elena Maria is very senior in the institute. She is the doctoral of the economic sciences. And this is the institute of our very senior friend who is directing the institution, Professor Michelo. He is also the member of our advisory board in the institute. Dr. Virgil is a very senior person, although Dr. Simona had presented, and she was also the co-chair in the previous session, and she had wonderfully done. And I'm sorry, Dr. Simona, that I forgot in the hurry thanking you that moment, because it was a really urgent an emergency when I left you in between, and really I apologize for that. I didn't speak your name at that moment. You're sorry, but you really have wonderfully contributed, and it's a great contribution. Thank you very much.
It's an honor for me, sir. Thank you, sir.
Zoriana came, and yeah, she is from our friend National Park, where this program was to happen in Husul-China, Kosiu, and they were the host when this program was planned to be conducted physically in Ukraine. Dr. Allah is very well contributing us offline. I mean, not only this lecture, but apart from this lecture too, she has been constantly promoting this event like anything among the friends in her university and also in her area particularly. And I'm really convinced with her presentation, because she has presented really in a socio-political mode, having a very high pitch, and while selecting the words, English words, although she is not very good in English, but I found that she had selected the words, very high level of the words she has selected in her language of the presentation. I don't know where she got this kind of the inputs from, where, by whom, I don't know, although I know that her level of academics is very high. Okay, so thank you very much for everybody. So on behalf of Professor Poyamoli, probably I have narrated this, although this was not my mandate. Thank you everyone, and I invite for the next session, which is a special session, which will be just starting after 30 minutes. So everyone is invited formally as well as informally. So please join us. We will be discussing very important strategic matters for the future. Thank you very much. Okay, Professor.
Okay, thank
Sati,
you, thank you, thank you.
salute to you. You have contributed a lot. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.